and thank you for watching this job seeking tips tutorial from the Johnson County Public Library. In this tutorial we will cover resumes and talk about what a resume is, why you need one, and how it can benefit you in your job search. Hello, first I would like to introduce myself and just give a little bit of information about me. My name is Stephanie and I'm an adult librarian at the White River branch of the Johnson County Public Library system. I have approximately 11 years experience working in libraries, primarily with young adults and adults. Prior to starting my current position with the White River branch, I worked as a paraprofessional for almost 6 years at a local university library. And at that library we had a Work One or unemployment office directly across from our library. So that experience, along with my current role in the public library setting, has given me a lot of new knowledge and skills and experience working with individuals on their job search and creating resumes. So that's what I have based this tutorial off of. I am not a professional in the job searching field, so at the end I will point you to the website of the Work One office locally here in Franklin, Indiana, and their contact information will be there in case you need further assistance with your job search. Outside of the library, some of my interests include working on puzzles, and I do enjoy continually learning new things. I like to learn about new places and people, and also learn new skills. And I also like walking my dog, and another thing I like to joke about is that I am hopelessly attempting to be crafty. Sometimes my crafting is successful and other times it is not, and that's kind of how a job search goes a lot of the time. You will sometimes be successful and other times you won't be successful. So you have to be willing to take the good with the bad. Okay, so what is a resume and why do you need one? A resume is basically a summary of your skills and experience, and the resume is important because it, along with your cover letter, is what you're going to use to market yourself to a prospective employer, and that is what's going to give that employer their first impression of you. So you want to make sure you're presenting a good, strong first impression to that employer. Resumes are also often being requested in place of applications, but they can also be requested in conjunction with an application. So it's just a good thing to have a resume ready to go. That way you can upload it into an online application, or the off chance that you have an encounter with a prospective employer, you can email that to them, or you can also have a paper copy printed and hand that off to them. The resume, along with your cover letter, is also what's going to land you an interview, and hopefully that interview will ultimately get you a job offer. So today we're going to cover two basic types of resumes, and that's chronological and functional. Chronological is exactly what it says. It's organized in a reverse chronological order, so you start with your most recent work experience and work your way backwards. Typically no more than 10 years worth of work experience, depending on your work history. And then the functional resume is sometimes referred to as a skills-based resume. So what that does is that takes a skill common to your work history. So maybe you have a background in sales, so it would take that sales, and then it would take things that you have done in your past jobs, duties, and also accomplishments related to sales, and place those underneath there. So the functional resume is good for people that have gaps in their employment history, because you can eliminate those dates and do it all skills-based. Okay, so first let's look at the chronological resume example, and this is from the Franklin College Career Development Center, and this is just a person that they made up and created a chronological resume for as an example. So you can kind of see the format and layout of the chronological resume here. So obviously, as mentioned, they start with their most recent job and work their way back. You will likely have more work experience than what they've listed here. This is just an example to kind of give you an idea of how to format a chronological resume. And you'll also notice at the top that they've included a LinkedIn profile in their header with their contact information, if you have LinkedIn or any other kind of professional social media or online presence, you can feel free to include that up in your header. So this is an example of what a chronological resume would look like. Okay, next let's look at the functional resume. This is an example from Indeed.com, and this is just a person that they made up and created a functional resume example for. And you'll notice that they've kind of told you along the side here what each section is. At the top they have a summary and an area of experience. You could do that, or you could also just include a skills section there, as we mentioned earlier. Next, they have listed out their skills, and then they have done it where they have listed their work experience down below and listed it just by year. You can do that, or you can also do it as listing like they have done with their skills, and just make it the skill a subject heading or a heading, and then list any relevant work experience and accomplishments that relate to that, and leave off any years. Either way works for a functional resume, but you can tell that this is a good way to kind of highlight your skills and help cover any employment gaps. So this is the functional resume. So next you want to think about what skills you have. So you want to look at your strengths. Think about what your strengths are. Are you a people person that has great customer service skills, or do you prefer working like behind the scenes? Maybe you're good at fixing things or have really good problem solving skills. Those are things to think about before starting on your resume. You also want to think about and create a list of both your technical and your soft communication skill or soft skills that you have for your resume. So technical, or sometimes referred to as hard skills, are things like proficiency in Microsoft Office or proficiency in a certain accounting software. And then your soft skills are things like excellent interpersonal communication skills or organizational skills. So you want to get that list ready before you create your resume. And if you have the list ready, or even if you think you know what to put on it, I encourage you still to do one or both of these assessments here. So Career One Stop has both a skills assessment and a interest assessment, and what those do is they take you through a series of questions that will help give you an idea of what your skills and interests are, and then at the end they will match you up with possible fields that your interest and skills might be best suited for. Another thing that I like to caution people that I assist with writing a resume are the free online resume template services. If you do a Google search for free online resumes or resume templates, you will get several results, but just be aware that many of those services are not entirely free. So it will be free for you to put your information in, but if you want to save, download, email, or print that resume, there will be a fee attached. So I just encourage users in order to avoid that, to start with sites like Indiana Career Connect, where you can create a free account and then you can build your resume for free, and also be able to save, download, email, and print it as many times as you wish, all for free. And I will give you some further resources for that at the end. Okay, next we want to talk about what to include on a resume. So at the very top of your resume, you should have what we call a header. And front and center, you want to have your name in big bold letters so that the employer can automatically see and know who that resume belongs to. Then you want to have a valid mailing address, a valid phone number, and a professional email address. Next, for your skills section, you want to include a mixture of those technical or hard skills and those soft skills. And the skills section is an area where you can really tailor your resume to a job listing. So you can look at the skills that that job listing is asking for, and if you have some of those skills, make sure you include them in this section, and that's a way to tailor your resume to a job. Next, for your education, you only want to include college education. You don't want to include high school on your resume. So if you did not go beyond a high school education, you can leave this section off. You want to start with your most recent degree, listing your education, And then if you completed coursework but did not complete a degree, you can list that. Just make sure that you make it clear that you did not complete the actual degree. Then for your work experience section, if you're doing a chronological resume, you're going to start with your most recent job and work your way back, typically no more than 10 years worth of work experience. And that depends on your work history though. You may need to pull a little bit farther back. Then in your work experience, you're going to want to use bullets and terms that highlight exactly what you did there. Just short bullet points and avoid long sentences or phrases here. You also want to use this section to not only highlight what you did, but how the work that you did can benefit your employer. So if you were responsible for sales, you may include something like increase sales by 10% or 20%, if that's true. Then that's a way to show the employer that you not only have that skill, but to what extent you have that skill. So that's another way to market yourself and also kind of tailor your resume to a job ad. Next are two sections that I say are kind of optional, but they are good to include if you are able to. And you have things that you can list in them. And those are activities and volunteer work and honors and awards. So for a recent graduate, or for somebody who's been in the work field but has gaps in their employment, these are good areas to include. So for activities for a recent college graduate, you could include leadership roles in clubs and organizations, and then you could also include relevant volunteer work if you don't have a lot of work experience. And then for the adult who does have work experience, they can include memberships in professional organizations. They can also include volunteer work if they have gaps in their employment. That will help cover that up. Any relevant volunteer work is just as good as past employment history, so make sure you include that. And then for the honors and awards section, if you're a recent graduate, you're going to have mostly academic honors and awards listed here. But if you have been in the workforce for a little bit, you want to include things like Employee of the Month or Productivity Awards here. Okay, so we talked about what to include on your resume. Now we're going to cover what not to include on your resume. So things that you shouldn't include on a resume include personal information like your birth date, social security number, age, sex, or race. You also don't want to include an unprofessional email address. So if you created your email in college and the beginning of it was something like beerlover42, then you want to create a new professional email address, or just leave that email address off completely. You also don't need to include a picture of yourself on your resume unless you are applying for a fashion or design type position, or if the job specifically requests for you to include a picture on your resume. Furthermore, in the skills section, you don't want to list any irrelevant hobbies. So maybe if you're a hardcore video gamer in your free time, but if that has nothing to do with the job that you're applying for or the field that you want to enter, then you don't want to list that on your resume. Additionally, I caution people about putting political or religious memberships on a resume. Of course, the obvious exception to that rule would be if you are applying to a job in a political field or with a religious-based organization. Furthermore, in the education section, as I mentioned, you do not want to include high school education. You only want to list your college education there. So if you did not go beyond high school, you can just leave that section off. Furthermore, in the work experience section, you typically do not want to go back more than 10 years in your work history. That's going to vary from person to person depending on what your work history looks like. But you want to kind of think of it as if you're in your 40s, you probably don't want to list a job that you had in high school. Additionally, you don't want to list any really short-term jobs on your resume. So if you worked somewhere for just a few weeks or even just a few months, you don't want to list that on your resume. Furthermore, within the resume, you want to avoid using any technical jargon. So that would be things like abbreviations or words that might be common to a specific field or business or even just an organization. Additionally, you don't want to list any salary history on your resume. That will be listed within a job application or covered at a later time during an interview. So now that we've covered how to build your resume, here are some additional job searching resources for you. Indiana Career Ready is the state's job preparedness site, and it has several resources to help you with your job search. If you would like to create a free resume, the Indiana Career Ready site will put you out to Indiana Career Connect, and there you can create a free account and then build your resume and be able to download, save, email, and print that resume as many times as you wish, all for free. Additionally, as I mentioned at the beginning of the tutorial, the experts in job searching are the folks at Work One, and we do have a local office in Franklin, Indiana. This link will guide you to their website and list their contact information. Should you need further assistance with your job search, I encourage you to contact them. Franklin College Career Development Center also has several helpful handouts on their site regarding different aspects of job search. One in particular that would be beneficial for your resume is the active verbs listing. You can pull out some of those words and make sure you include those into your resume. The library also has many great resources to help you with your job search. One in particular is lynda.com, and lynda.com has several videos on creating a resume. They also have other videos on different aspects of your job search, and that is all free with your library card. So I encourage everybody to have at least one person review their resume for any kind of grammatical or spelling errors or other glaring errors that might be there. If you would like me to review your resume, feel free to email me at sdavis@jcplin.org and include the subject resume review. If you have a link to a job description that you're looking to apply for, feel free to include that, but if not, just make sure you include a copy of your resume and then allow 2 business days for a response. I hope you found this tutorial helpful, and I wish you the best of luck in your job search. Thank you for